All right, everybody, welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. We have a pretty action-packed episode in this one with recapping the Saturday game as well as all the Sunday morning games. To kick it off with
There's quite a few.
yeah, 11 games in total. Yeah, there was an insane amount of morning games. To kick it off, the Lions at the Cowboys on Saturday in what ended a very controversial way, but fantasy-wise, that didn't affect too much. Like if the call would have
Unless,
stood, it would have been a lineman getting it.
yeah, unless you had Jared Goff, I guess, which
Yeah.
would have given him 2 more points.
And he needed the two. He
He
needed the
needed
two
the
more
2
points.
points, man. He did
That's
need those 2
that's
points.
that's a fair point. Jared Goff had a pretty rough outing. He was 19 of 34, 271 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. He finished with 12.84 fantasy points. He was the quarterback 24 on the week. We did say that we didn't necessarily like the Jared Goff start this week, and that did prove to be the case. Someone we were let down pretty large by was Jahmyr Gibbs. He played 62% of snaps, but he carried it 15 times, but for only 43 yards. He had 3 targets out the backfield. He only caught one of those for not a single yard. He finished with 5.3 fantasy points, and he'd been on an absolute tear. So I mean,
And it was unfortunate because there was a 34-yard run that he had in the game that got called back by a useless-ass holding. So it was like, oh, there goes 3.4 more points. That definitely would have helped.
yeah, no,
It's just one of
absolutely.
those games.
It really is. David Montgomery fared a bit better fantasy wise. He only played 39% of snaps. He had 14 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. He didn't catch his lone target out the backfield. He finished with 12 and a half fantasy points. That's a solid week from David Montgomery. And then our other two, big names that we were going to throw in the lineup this week. Amon-Ra was targeted 8 times, caught 6 of them for 90 yards and a touchdown. He also carried it once for 11 yards. He finished with 22.1. That's a very good week from Amon-Ra in the championship. And Sam Laporta was targeted 12 times, caught 7 of them for 84 yards, 15.4. We said just with any rookie, you're going to have a bit of inconsistency, and Sam Laporta has been very consistent. Like, he had a couple down weeks, but he's a guy we obviously throw in the lineup, and he came through in a big week for us. Outside of that, there wasn't too much activity. Jameson Williams caught a deep ball. He was targeted 3 times, caught 2 of them for 69 yards, rushed it once for 6 yards, finished with 9.5. Josh Reynolds had 2.3, and Khalif Raymond had 2.1 fantasy points. But, I mean, Laporta, Amon-Ra, and David Montgomery got it done for us. Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs just did not.
Nah. But so the story goes, man. I mean, yeah, from a real life football perspective, which we won't get into too much because this is a fantasy podcast, but this was easily one of the most controversial games of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, not only it's very obvious that last play, the 2-point conversion, but even before that, what kept the Lions alive, they called a tripping on Luke Schoonmaker, which was actually Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
So it never even should
Should
have
have
gotten
got to
into
that.
the refs were just bad. I mean, fortunately for everybody who has a team going to the playoffs, that refereeing crew was downgraded. They will not be
Insane.
participating in the playoffs,
It's
which is a
crazy.
good thing. That was,
Yeah.
I mean, that was horrible. You can't, make that big of mistakes. That was essentially a playoff level game. I
Yeah.
mean, with the Eagles losing that, if the Lions would have won that game, they pretty much could have put themselves in position to have that 2 seed.
Yeah.
But what's done is done, and the Cowboys, some of them provided for us in ways that, we hoped and knew they would.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott being one of them. 26 for 38, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Ran the ball twice for 5 yards, unfortunately lost a fumble, but he had 21.3 points.
Yeah.
Another plus 20 day from Dak. I mean, he's been solid throughout the whole year, man.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I'm happy with that performance in the fantasy championship. But
Mm-hmm.
Tony Pollard, man, um, we said they're not gonna have Rico Dowdle in this one. They probably weren't gonna trust Lipke, and Deuce Vaughn might get a little bit of run. Tony played 85% of the snaps, only 12% to Deuce Vaughn, and I mean Lipke's a fullback, so we got another 12%. That's not exactly going to equal up to 100, as you can imagine. But I mean, Tony ran the ball 16 times, 49 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Got 3 targets and caught one of them for nothing.
Yeah.
It was, kind of what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yeah, before the last 2 weeks, Tony Pollard had been great in those past 3. He'd been what we drafted, but in the past 2 weeks, and then now this one,
week. Yeah.
I was like, I do not like the trend he's on. I really don't. They're going up against a very stout Lions rush defense, and it showed.
Yeah, I did.
It really showed. I mean, he had his longest rush was for 18 yards, and a lot of it was just behind the line, at the line of scrimmage. There was just not much to get done, and he only got 3 targets. So,
Yeah.
just disappointing stuff. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up going in the draft next year. Someone who will undoubtedly go within the top 5, if not top 3. C.D. Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he had to get a rush. Got a little 5-yard rush in there. But this man got 17 targets, caught 13 of them for 227 yards and a touchdown. Was about a foot away from having 2 touchdowns. Fortunately, lost control of the ball, fumbled through the back of the end zone. So that was like an 8-point swing. Finished with 40, would have finished with like 48.
Yeah.
Either way, if you had CeeDee Lamb, there's a very good chance you won your championship matchup.
Yeah.
He went absolutely ballistic. Yeah, he will easily be a top 5 pick next year. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way he falls out of that. Someone who, we said, if you want to roll him, we like it. Brandon Cooks. He came through. He got 8 targets, which was second most on the team. Caught 5 of them for 60 and a touchdown. So 17 points out of Brandon Cooks in the championship week. I love that, man. That's great. And then Jake Ferguson caught 4 of his 6 for 33, 7.3 points. As you can imagine, kind of falls off from there beyond the point of it being worth mentioning. I mean, Deuce Vaughn caught a pass for 10 yards, but Michael Gallup, his involvement is non-existent. He played 31% of the snaps, which was less than Jalen Tolbert. So
an expensive third option there. Very expensive.
Yeah. The way things change throughout the course of a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be all for that. Well, no, I guess I could mention the boy Brandon Aubrey because he scored 11 points. Definitely assisted me in a couple fantasy championships, so I imagine he did with others as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for a solid year, Brandon Aubrey. Dude did not miss a field goal.
It's incredible.
Hey, I mean,
it's incredible.
Yeah, that's what you want out of your fantasy kicker. But yeah, that'll be all for that one. Derek, if you want to take us into our first morning game.
Yeah, and it was a pretty big game for both teams. It was the Saints at the Bucks. The Saints honestly controlled and dominated most of this game. They ended up winning 23-13. Huh?
Surprisingly.
Yeah, no, I agree because honestly, this game had a lot of disappointing performances, a lot of them. They had a couple good ones, but a lot of disappointment here. Derek Carr was efficient with the ball. He was 24 of 32 for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did not throw an interception. 3 carries for -3 yards. Kneel downs. 15.58. Not too great of a fantasy week. And honestly, I thought Derek Carr would do a little bit more through the air. He got the 2 touchdowns, but sub 200 pass yards against one of the worst pass defenses in the league. I expected a little more.
Yeah, they just got up and
their defense did enough to hold it. So And that's the Saints, though. That's how the Saints play football. It's how they go to work. But yeah, as Schiff mentioned, Kamara did leave with that ankle injury. He only played 33% of snaps, and he was actually pretty efficient when he was in the game. He had 10 carries for 45 yards, caught both of his targets for 4 yards. He finished 6.9. It just sucks to see him leave so early in such a big week for so many of us, but I can't, I can't knock the guy for getting hurt, and that's why he finished with 6.9.
Nah,
It is what it is. It's just
there's
unfortunate.
a lot of performances this week that we'll talk about. Guys that played the whole entire game and got a lot more opportunities that
Did
definitely
worse.
let us down worse than this.
Yeah, and yeah, when Kamara left, it was Jamal Williams. He ended with 19 carries for 58 yards, caught all 4 of his targets for 13 yards, got 11.1, 57% of snaps. Again, I don't think very many people had him in the lineup. Chris Olave was one of the disappointments. He was only targeted 6 times. He caught 3 of them for 26 yards, gave us 5.6 points. It's a pretty tough week. And the other one, Rashid Shaheed, if people were considering him as a flex play due to his boom capability, he did not boom in this one. He was only targeted 3 times, caught 2 of them for 14 yards, 3.4 fantasy points. Pretty rough. The superstar of this one, Juwan Johnson, finally decided to just go crazy, honestly. He had the most targets on the team. He was targeted more times than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed combined. He got 12 targets, caught 8 of them for 90 yards and a touchdown. He gave us 23. And Nick, one of our friends, was talking about, he made a last-second pivot. I forgot who. Maybe he was thin at tight end. He had like Chiggy Okonkwo because he had someone that got hurt or something, and he made a last-second pivot to Juwan from Chiggy. A boom play. I mean, some people did make that pivot, and if you did, that's a extremely risky play that paid off to the highest degree.
I think he might have been.
That would be incredible, honestly. But let's see real quick. Yes, he was. He was the only tight end that got above 20. Yeah, that's.
I was gonna say because I know likely we'll get into that, but
yeah, that's. I mean, just a monster week for Juwan Johnson. Even Taysom Hill.
we finally pull the plug on the Taysom Hill experience,
and he gets in the end zone. But that's the only. It wasn't like he was heavily involved. Again, he was.
No. But it was like, good lord, like you couldn't have done this for us. The weeks were still vouching for you, man. Like,
no, 100%. Yeah, Taysom Hill.
It's funny the way that worked.
Yeah, he caught both of his targets for 30 yards and a touchdown. He carried it twice for a single yard. Gave him 11.54. A Taysom Hill week. It is what it is. But on the Bucs side of the ball, there was, again, some disappointing performances. Baker was playing terrible, and then he actually kind of salvaged his fantasy day. He finished 22 of 33, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, a single carry for a negative 1 yard, 18.26. So finished with a decent day. Not great by any means, but doesn't absolutely hurt us. Rachaad White had a pretty disappointing performance. I expected a little more from him. He carried it 11 times for 42 yards. He lost a fumble. He caught all 4 of his targets for 24 yards, and it gave him 8.6. So a single-digit finish from Rachaad, who had been giving us, it felt like, 15 plus for the past, 8 weeks. So that's tough to see in a championship week. Chase Edmonds actually outscored him on the week. He carried it 3 times for 16 yards, but caught 5 of his 6 targets for 40 yards, giving him 10.6. He only played 27% of snaps. It's not like he's going to, it's not like their target or snap share is going to be so close that it's an issue. It's just unfortunate.
Type thing.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it was this week that Chase Edmonds decided to go double digits for the first time all year.
Yeah.
Receiving threats, Mike Evans was, again, not heavily involved. He had 4 targets. He caught 3 of them for 70 yards. He gave us 10 fantasy points. He's someone we mentioned against the Saints, for whatever reason, he never plays that good. This was actually a
salvageable day.
Yeah, it is. It's a salvageable day. It wasn't good by any means, but him only getting targeted 4 times when Baker threw the ball 33 times is just it's just crazy. But that seems to always be the script against the Saints for Mike Evans. Chris Godwin had a solid day. He was only targeted 5 times, but he caught 3 of them for 81 yards and a touchdown, which gave him 17.1. And Trey Palmer, the rookie, 5 targets, caught 4, 84 yards and a touchdown. He did lose a fumble, but he finished with 16.4. And Cade Otton again was running cardio out there. He actually got targeted 6 times, so more than Evans or Godwin, but he only caught 2 for 10 yards. Gave him 3 points. That was it. The Saints won. Made it closer. I think the Bucs are still in charge of the division.
If the Bucs win, they win the division. They have a better conference record.
Yeah.
And they played the Panthers. So, yeah, it's very, very likely that they're about to win the division this upcoming week.
Yeah.
On to what was obviously my favorite game of probably the year.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins went into M&T Bank Stadium and got fried. 19-56, an absolute beatdown. Didn't see Jalen Waddle or Raheem Mostert in this one for the Dolphins. Obviously, that played some part, but both of these teams were beat up. Tua was 22 for 38, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, carried the ball twice for 14 yards for 16.9 points. I mean, outside of the interceptions, the Tua has been fairly accurate this year. One of the interceptions was just an amazing play by Roquan, and the other one was a very bad throw, which, like I said, it's fairly uncharacteristic out of Tua.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of the points we've been seeing him put up.
Yeah.
Around this. Yeah, I mean, it's been tough, but when the running backs are getting in at the goal line the way that and granted, they only scored 2 touchdowns in this one.
Yeah.
So no, they did. Yeah. It was just a bad game for Tua, if I'm being honest. And not having Jalen Waddle out there clearly had effect. Who had a great game for the Miami Dolphins was none other than Devon Achane.
Mm-hmm.
14 attempts, 107 yards, caught 4 of his 5 targets for 30 yards and a touchdown, 23.7 points. I mean, this was the easiest play in my opinion once Raheem Mostert was ruled out. It was like, oh, Devon Achane, automatic start.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
And he went off, as I thought he would. Jeff Wilson had some small involvement, 3 attempts for 21 yards, also caught 3 of his 4 passes for 13 yards, giving him 6.4. Other than that, I mean, Durham Smythe, probably one of his most involved games of the year. Got 3 targets, caught them all for 54 yards, 8.4 points out of him. We were never, ever going to start Durham Smythe, but
no,
he did that.
Yeah.
One of the worst games, and proclaimed by him his worst game of the year. Tyreek Hill had 12 targets, which he caught 6 of for 76 yards, only 13.6 points. I was personally, hoping for a little bit more, even though it's against the Ravens.
Yeah.
But I was expecting more too. I mean, he very well did and should have had another touchdown. I mean,
Oh yeah. He dropped a very easy touchdown.
Talk about uncharacteristic. He literally is in his hands and then somehow just pops up and he can't regain control before he gets his feet in.
Yeah.
So he would have had a much better day. He would have had a 20-plus point day, obviously, from that touchdown. But as we say, these things happen. These things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unfortunate. The guy who did get in the end zone from that receiving corps, Cedric Wilson, who caught 2 of his 4 passes for 27 yards and that touchdown, giving him 10.7 points. Other than that, I mean, Braxton Berrios caught both of his passes for 10 yards. So,
Yeah.
as far as the Dolphins, that was really all. Moving on to my guys, where Lamar Jackson absolutely made a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Had more touchdown passes than incompletions, which is just insane. He
Yeah.
was 18 for 21 for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also ran the ball 6 times for 35 yards. 36.3 points out of Lamar in the championship.
It's a monster week.
Oh, yeah. And that's after the week he had last week, too. So, I mean, whichever week you had the championship in, you had Lamar Jackson, he did right by you.
Yeah.
Man. Another guy who was solid, unfortunately ended up losing a fumble, bringing his total down a little bit, was Gus Edwards. Ran the ball 16 times for 68 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, lost that fumble. So rather than 12.8, he had 10.8. And I mean, if you saw the play, I just got to give credit to Zach Sealer. That was an amazing rip on. But unfortunately for the Dolphins, the very next play was when Tua threw his second interception. So
yeah,
it wasn't very long lived. I think the most surprising performance out of this game was from Justice Hill. He ran the ball 3 times for 48 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Also caught all 5 of his passes for 64 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Giving him 22.2 points. Not only did he do that, he also ran a kickback like 70, 80 yards to set them up for I mean, Justice Hill was all over the place. Good for you, Justice.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say any playing Justice Hill in this situation, but damn, did he go off. And if you had him in some kind of best ball, then he came through for you.
Yeah.
Just had to throw it in there. Melvin Gordon got 6 attempts for 10 yards and a touchdown. Good job, Melvin, holding on to the ball, getting in at the goal line, and not fumbling. I appreciate that. Isaiah Likely was an obvious, I think, a very obvious start in this one.
Yeah.
I played him everywhere I could. He caught 2 of his 3 passes for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 18.2 points out of Isaiah Likely. Love to see that. Good job, kid.
Yeah.
Charlie Collar, another tight end, also had a 19-yard receiving touchdown on his only catch of the game. Much to the dismay of probably Vic Fangio, but who cares about that guy? Zay Flowers. I mean, I never thought we'd see 2, like, whether, last week was the semifinals, this week's the finals, whatever the case may be. These last 2 weeks, the performance out of Zay Flowers has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He had 22, I think, last week, and this week, 3 catches on 3 targets for 106 yards and a touchdown, giving him 19.6. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Out of a Ravens rookie wide receiver. Something that
we love to see it, though.
Yeah, this is new territory for me. It's great.
Yeah.
OBJ didn't really show up fantasy-wise, but if you watch that game, the catch he made was absolutely incredible. Turned back the clocks with that one. His only catch of the game, but it was for 33 yards, set them up for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Aguilar caught a couple passes for 18 yards. And Rashad Bateman, 6 targets, caught 4 of them for 54 yards, 9.4 points.
Yeah.
Man, he's finally starting to become who I thought he could be. Yeah, he played the most snaps of all the Ravens wide receivers.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, my boys are rolling. The fantasy season is effectively over, so we will see what the hell happens in that running back room. But looking forward to next year. I mean, Zay.
Yeah.
Great option.
Yeah, he will be.
And then Justin Tucker, cool little 8 points. Oh, and Pat Ricard got a touchdown. Always worth mentioning.
Well,
that'll be all for that one.
Yeah, the Ravens are absolutely rolling, and this next game was a huge game for both teams. The Raiders at the Colts, a game that the Colts were able to hold on and win 23-20. We actually saw some good performances honestly on the Raiders side of the ball. The three guys that we consider starting had very solid performances. Aiden O'Connell got it done through the air. He was 30 of 47 for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. Carried it twice for 3 yards, 20.26 fantasy points. But the guy who benefited the most from that was Devontae Adams. He went from giving us 1.8 last week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then this week he was targeted 21 times. Caught 13 of them for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns, 37.6. If you did somehow survive last week with Devontae, you obviously started him again, and he at least made up for it in the championship. He gave you a monster week. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that. It was
that team is so mind-boggling.
You just don't know how the Raiders are going to approach a game. It makes no sense at all. But
he got like 7 targets last week to 21.
Yeah, it is what it is. But Jacoby Myers also got 10 targets. He caught 6 of them for 56 yards, gave him 11.6. Trey Tucker was targeted 5 times. He caught 2 of those for 36 yards, 5.6. Austin Hooper, 3 targets, caught him for 28 yards, 5.8, whatever. Zamir White, another guy that I'd say was a good start, just due to the volume he's going to get. Ran the ball. Yeah, I mean, he ran the ball 20 times. He only got 71 yards, but he also caught 5 of his 6 targets for 35 yards, and he finished with 15.6. It's a very solid week. And then it's just crazy fantasy-wise. You look at the Raiders, and then going over to the Colts, and the Colts really only had one guy that people would start that had a good week. And that was Jonathan Taylor. I'll start with him. He was the best player for the Colts by far. He had 21 carries for 96 yards and a touchdown. Caught his lone target for 8 yards, gave you 17.4. We actually saw a lot of Trey Sermon as the backup running back. I'm surprised he is still in the league. But he played 32% of snaps, carried it 5 times for 32 yards, caught both his targets for 9 yards, 6.1. Good for you, Trey Sermon. Gardner Minshew did not have the greatest week. He only completed 15 passes. He only threw the ball 23 times for 224 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions. Carried it twice for 3 yards, 13.26. The guy we were really hoping would have a monster week this week was Michael Pittman. He was able to return in this game, and he wasn't that heavily involved. He did see 7 targets, and he caught 5 of them, but for only 46 yards, gave you 9.6. So I mean, it's like a Mike Evans week. It's not a terrible week by any means, but we definitely would expect and hope for at least 12-13.
I mean, being honest, the Raiders' pass defense has been good.
Yeah, and outside of a couple big plays, like the Colts didn't really thrash them through the air very much. They just had a couple very big chunks.
Alec Pierce
was targeted 1 time, and he caught it for a 58-yard touchdown. How Alec Pierce is beating someone deep down the field, it's like sending Renfro on a go route, and he just beats you 60 yards downfield. Like, what are we doing?
Alec Pierce is a big human being, though.
Yeah, no, he is.
I was gonna just the size
difference
between him and Renfro. But I was like, Alex. But no, I don't know how fast he is.
Yeah, that was his only target on the game, but he did catch it for that 58-yard touchdown, giving him 12.8. Josh Downs.
3-2-11.
Yeah, he
4-4-140.
And he's fast.
Hey, man, okay.
He's fast. And Josh Downs also caught a deep pass, but not for a touchdown. He was only targeted twice. He caught both of them for 53 yards, giving him 7.3. I mean, and that's really it. Like, the tight ends, Mo Alley Cox had a couple catches. Like, but very minimal. Like, and they weren't people were considering starting, and they also, didn't have crazy weeks at all. Matt Gay did have 12 points, albeit in offsides call. That it is what it is. Yeah, Matt Gay finished 12 points. The Colts got the win. Their playoff hopes are very much alive. The Raiders are now out of the playoffs. So, another heartbreaking season for Raider fans. But that was it. It's just weird looking at the Colts, and yeah, like, again, Jonathan Taylor had a solid week, and like that was it.
For what it's worth, you guys lasted a hell of a lot longer than you should have with Aiden O'Connell at the helm.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That's something we both could agree on.
Yeah, and he wasn't even the reason we lost this game. That's the craziest part. Is he actually showed up.
I agree with that. But just like Minnesota, and anyway, we move on.
Yeah, but that's all I had for that one.
This next game, I was thoroughly surprised with. It looked like the Rams were kind of going to run away with it at first, and then somehow, at the very end of the game, the Giants are knocking on the door to win.
Yeah.
Of course, Mason Crosby, for some reason, is the kicker, and he misses the game-winning field goal, effectively causing the Giants to lose and the Rams to clinch a playoff spot. But nonetheless, it was a fairly exciting game. The Rams beat the Giants 26-25, and Matt Stafford, fairly disappointing performance.
Yeah.
24 for 34, 317 yards, but 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Also had an attempt for a negative yard, which, as you imagine, is a kneel. 14.6 points out of him. Not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who was quite the opposite. Kyren Williams.
He's
we
amazing.
Could give a guy the title of, I don't know, I think fantasy MVP this year. Due to all things considered, I think it would have to be Kyren Williams due to the fact that he was picked up off of the waivers.
Yeah.
When he was playing football, I think he had maybe 1 bad week. And these past playoff weeks through the championship, I don't think he scored under 15 points.
No.
I mean, the dude has been absolutely incredible. And this week, 20 attempts, 87 yards, 3 touchdowns. Caught both of his targets for 14 yards, 30.1 points.
Would you say his worth is like Miles Sanders, Curtis Samuel?
What do you mean?
It's a joke. The trade. That's who he was traded for.
Oh,
Miles Sanders and Curtis.
I put that so far out of my mind, I didn't even know what the hell you were talking about. Jesus.
That was the trade. Continue.
Yeah, so, wow. Yep, Kyren Williams did that. And, funny enough, Tyler Higbee. Got 7 targets this week.
Of course he did.
He got 7 targets.
Of course he did. Why not?
6 of them for 62 yards, 12.2 points out of Tyler Higbee. I mean, good for you, bud. Good for you. He did almost just as good as Cooper Kupp, who only got 6 targets, caught 4 of them for 27, and very fortunately, touchdown.
Yes.
Because 12.7 points, I mean, oh.
Would have been 6.
Yeah. It's been a rough last couple weeks out of Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
Just very close, like 10, 12 points. Just not what we're expecting out of that guy. Yeah. Especially when you have DeMarcus Robinson getting 10 targets, catching 6 of them for 92 yards. Unfortunately, losing. Still scoring more points than Cooper Kupp, though, 13.2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the deal is, but since I think the Ravens game or the game before, DeMarcus Robinson has become a key part of this offense.
Yeah.
Like,
he's what Tutu was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and
just
I don't
randomly.
know what, and it just happened like out of nowhere, past the middle of the year, past like Demarcus Robinson, we're going to start throwing you the ball. And he got the most targets on the team.
Yeah.
Puka got 8, but being Puka, he caught 5 of them for 118. So you're doing Puka things. Also ran the ball twice for 19 yards. 18.7 points. I actually saw a really funny tweet from Will Compton saying that Puka is officially on the white team because he got hawked down on his long pass. It's like, oh
He's
no.
not gonna have breakaway speed. I forgot what his 40 time was, but I know it wasn't that fast. Homie's Jake Bobo out there.
It was not. And you just see him, it's like, oh Lord, he's gonna. Yep, he got hawked down.
Of course.
But that doesn't take away from how good of a wide receiver he is. He just does
No.
not have breakaway speed.
Yeah.
But funny enough, the quarterback who had the better performance in this game was Tyrod Taylor. Threw the ball 41 times. Completed 27. I don't know if a lot of people watching this may know, but the reason why Justin Herbert's career got jump-started was because of this guy and because the Chargers stabbed him in the ribs with the needle.
Tried to kill the
And
man.
punctured his lung.
Yeah, they punctured his lung, dude.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor is he's been around the league.
Yeah.
And damn, he really almost won the Giants this game. Completed 27 passes out of his 41 attempts for 319 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception. Ran the ball 6 times for 40 yards and unfortunately lost a fumble, but 19.8 points.
Yeah.
No, nobody was starting Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I think I might have picked him up in our bubble bowl or something just because all my quarterbacks were dead, but
Yeah.
One that I'd say was very disappointing, again, from the running back position, Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
12 attempts for 39 yards, caught 3 of his 6 targets for 19. 8.8 points, so, better than like Jahmyr Gibbs and a few others we'll talk about, but still, just the sub 10-point weeks in the fantasy championship
They suck.
out of guys that were taken in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
It's painful. It's very painful. So, yeah, not the best week out of Saquon. For some reason, a guy, the dude had his dream last week about Darius Slayton scoring 18 points. Well, this week, he did even better. He got he got 4 of his 6 passes for 106 yards and a touchdown. 20.6 points out of Darius Slayton.
I mean, he's capable. It's just.
Yeah, we've known he's capable. The dude's hardly ever healthy.
Yeah.
Hardly ever healthy, so it's hard to. And I mean, let's be honest, the quarterback situation in New York has been abysmal.
Yeah.
And little did we know, Tyrod Taylor is the answer to the quarterback problem in New York.
Jeez.
Not only did Darius Slayton perform in that wide receiver room, Wan'Dale Robinson went off as well. He caught 6 of his 9 targets for 55 yards, also had 1 rushing attempt for a 24-yard touchdown, 19.9 points out of him.
Yeah.
Darren Waller, hey. I to come clean, I did end up, after endorsing Kyle Pitts, I looked at it in one of the championships I was in. I'm starting Waller over
I don't
Pitts.
blame you. I don't blame you for that.
I'm starting Waller over Pitts. It's like, I know I went on the episode and said, let's be honest, man. I'm not trusting a Falcon in my championship week.
No.
And I'm sorry. I want to go on record and say I'm sorry for even putting it out there that you should remotely. No, I was wrong. I was very wrong. Darren Waller was definitely the answer in that situation. And he caught 5 of his 6 targets for 51 yards, 10.1 points.
Yeah.
Solid enough. We can survive on that.
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt caught 3 of his 4 targets for 25. And effectively, I mean, that was really it.
Well,
I just wanted to give that apology for saying I would start Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller when I, in fact, did not do that. I had a second of reflective thought and was like, oh God, that was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Well, it was a mistake for the Titans to even show up and consider playing football. They lost 26-3 to the Texans in Houston. Will Levis played 24% of snaps before leaving with a foot injury, and in that time he was 2 for 6 for 16 yards and a lost fumble, negative 1.36 fantasy points. And then Ryan Tannehill stepped in for the rest of the game and said, I'll go 16 of 20 for 168 yards. I won't throw a touchdown. I won't throw a pick. I'll get you 6.72 fantasy points. It was outside of DeAndre Hopkins, who once Tannehill came in, was able to successfully get him the ball 7 times on 7 targets to be exact for 72 yards, 14.2 fantasy points. A very solid week for D-Hop. I mean, I will take that in a championship, especially because how inconsistent the Titans have been as a whole passing the ball. So it's a solid week for him. But outside of that, I mean, Chris Moore, 4.2. Treylon Burks, 3.1. Chiggy Okonkwo was targeted 4 times, caught 3 of them for 34, 6.4. Then we get to the running backs. We said, 1, Derrick Henry had a terrible first game against the Texans. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 2. CJ Stroud's here. Nico Collins are here. They could go up a lot, and then he gets
running the ball.
Then he gets written out of the game, and that's kind of exactly what happened. Derrick Henry.
That is one. We could take our victory laps on that one. We called that one perfect. I mean, it was obvious enough, but it was like, guys, let's not force the issue here. We saw it happen last time, and that was with Case Keenum when they had.
That was like 2 weeks ago. Like, it just happened. We knew it was going to happen. Yeah, Derrick Henry played 42% of snaps. He carried the ball 12 times for 42 yards. He had a single target that he didn't catch. 4.2 fantasy points. This is a guy that was healthy. Yeah. You know, like, and this is one of the people, we mentioned it going in, that it just did not seem like a good matchup, and again, it was not. And the crazy part, it's not like Tyjae Spears did very much better. He played 62% of snaps, but he had the Derrick Henry effect from last time when they played the Texans. Tyjae Spears ran the ball 6 times for 0 yards. I mean, he caught 4 of his 6 targets for 29, give him 6.9, but like, it just
wasn't nowhere to go.
No, it was an awful week for everyone on the Titans outside of DeAndre Hopkins.
And that was the thing. Like, the last time these two teams played, it was like, oh, Derrick Henry Wash is there. It's like, did you watch? Look at how many times
he's getting hit.
The ball. He's getting tackled already, my guy. Like, I don't care who you put back there. There's nothing they could do. And his skill set relies entirely of him building up a head of steam. So, I mean, of course not. Like,
no, it was a awful week. And then the Texans side of the ball, they really only had one very good performance or solid performance. I mean, Singletary was decent in this game. CJ Stroud was 24 of 32, 213 yards, a single touchdown, no interceptions, a carry for 4 yards. Gave him 12.92. It just wasn't a game that they had to do very much other than just keep the clock moving, to be honest. Nico Collins was targeted 8 times, caught 7 of them for 80 yards, carried it once for 7 yards, 15.7. A very nice week from Nico Collins. A week that we liked the Nico Collins start. Robert Woods was the number 2 receiver, caught all 4 of his targets for 58 yards, 9.8. Noah Brown unfortunately injured his hip after playing only 11% of snaps and did not return. He was targeted twice in that time, and he caught 1 of those for 8 yards, so he got 1.8. An unfortunate week for him. Dalton Schultz was someone I actually really liked in this matchup, and I was wrong with that prediction. He only saw 4 targets, in which he caught 2 of them for 19 yards, 3.9 fantasy points, and he played 79% of snaps. He was out there almost the entire game. He was actually outscored by Brevin Jordan, who Had 2 catches for 19 yards, just like Dalton Schultz, but did it on 2 targets and caught a touchdown.
Of course.
The only touchdown that CJ Stroud threw. So he finished with 9.9. He played 51% of snaps. Devin Singletary was, again, solid in this. 16 carries for 80 yards, caught all 3 of his targets for 6 yards, gave him 11.6. It's Devin Singletary. You can't expect 20-point weeks.
You said, would you play Devin Singletary over Tony Pollard?
We said yeah, and that was the crazy part. It's
we
like
said yes. We said yes.
Yeah, we did. We did say yes, and
Made that call.
And it proved to be true. And the last guy in this game, Dameon Pierce, actually got 20% of snaps, probably because they were winning by so much. But he carried it 8 times for 16 yards, caught his lone target for 5, 3.1 fantasy points. It was just a very easy win for the Texans.
In all honesty, the fact that we were right about that, a lot of people should be very sick to their stomachs.
Dude, it's week 17. Things are gross.
Week.
Things are gross.
Like, you got to play Singletary over Tony Pollard, and we were right about it. It's like, oh my God. That's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's all you have for that one.
Yeah.
On to, I thought this game would have a little bit more separation, but the Bills maybe just aren't that good.
They're not.
Because when you have we'll get into this. So the Patriots lost 21-27, but Bailey Zappi threw 3 interceptions.
He looked terrible.
I genuinely cannot piece together how you only win by 6 points at home when Bailey Zappi throws 3 picks.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's 16 for 26, 209 yards, the 3 picks. But he did run the ball 5 times for 37 yards and a touchdown. So he got 15.1 points.
So disgusting. He doesn't even deserve that fantasy point finish, dude. That's unbelievable. It is what it is.
It is. It's crazy, though. Yeah, he did that. Zeke, solid, kind of like Singletary. Had 14 attempts for 39 yards and a touchdown. Caught one of his 2 passes for 6 yards, 11.5 points.
Yeah.
We kind of hoped he'd do a little bit more in the area of catching passes, but
yeah,
it went how it'll go. 11.5, definitely better than days some people had.
Yes.
I think the most disheartening thing of this whole entire day was how many running backs in 2-3 rounds were outscored by Kevin Harris.
A lot.
Running back 3 for the Patriots, Kevin Harris only ran the ball twice for 15 yards, but he caught both of his targets for 54 yards, making him the lead receiver on the Patriots. And he finished with 8.9 points.
Yeah.
A whole lot of guys. Like I said, it's just disheartening to think about. If that wasn't bad enough, Jalen Reagor finished with 10.9 points. He caught he caught one of his 3 targets for 39 yards, and he also got a kick return touchdown.
Good for Jalen Reagor, man. You know what? Stay in the league. Find your lane. Good for you, dude.
Yeah. In the absence of Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki was Mike Gesicki. He caught 4 of his 6 targets for 35 yards, 7.5 points. No Gritty today.
No.
Mario Douglas caught 3 of his 5 for 31, also 3 times for 12 yards, 7.3 points out of him. I mean, I think he's a guy that maybe like next year, for the love of God, depending on what the quarterback situation is, he could be like a late round steal.
Yeah.
Something.
I could see that.
Yeah, but I mean, granted, that really depends on the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll get into a lot later. But I do like what I've seen out of him. Kind of like what Jaden Reed is to the Packers. And, as we can see, if you can make that work, oh my God, it is very valuable.
Yeah.
Other than that, for the Pats, Tyquan Thornton caught all 3 of his targets for 24 yards, 5.4 points. That's all for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, another just mediocre day. I mean, 15 completions on 30 attempts, 169 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown. Threw an interception, of course. Had 11 rushing attempts for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he finishes with 22.2 points. That very Josh Allen-esque day.
Yeah.
And, I mean, cool. What wasn't cool was James Cook. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
That is just too rough back-to-back performances out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the volume. He got 16 attempts, 48 yards. Only caught one of his 3 targets for -4 yards. So this wasn't a 5.4 points out of James Cook. Just
Another week.
extremely disappointing, man. Yeah, it's like some of these guys like James Cook, guys like Keenan Allen, as I'll get into Stephon Diggs,
Yeah.
that have been great for a large portion of this year. But when it came down to the nitty gritty, and I need something out of these, hell, like 5 points back to back weeks out of James Cook, that really hurts.
Yeah.
Also, I had Ty Johnson get in there, run the ball 5 times for 22 yards. Whatever that's worth, 2.2 points out of him. Dalton Kincaid had a little comeback in this one. Caught 4 of his 7 targets for 87 yards, 12.7 points.
Yeah.
Have a day. Have a day. Was not comfortable with playing him in this one. And apparently that's the sentiment that I should have just held for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it hasn't been good. It has not been good.
It's been weeks now, like multiple
Oh,
weeks.
I know. That's what I mean. It has not been good.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things. It's like, as far as the position, it's not like we're making a reach. This is, Terry McLaurin, a guy that it's like,
It's your
this was my
first
first
round
round
pick.
pick.
Or
This
like
was my
very early set. Like it's too high to be like, oh, this guy can go on the bench. No, he cannot go
Yeah,
on
and
the
it's
bench.
like most of the time, not even that it's too high. Who the hell are you gonna start over Stephon Diggs? Like, I genuinely I was in the guillotine, so it's like at that point there are 2 teams left and everybody's on the waivers. If
Yeah.
you're in a traditional league, all these guys are still on team. Who are you starting over Stephon Diggs? You're digging deep. If you didn't pick up a guy like Jaden Reed or somebody, even then, it's like you're really playing with fire there. But most of the time, you're not even gonna have something like that pivot to.
No.
So that's just one of the ones where the draft pick did not pan out.
No.
And there's not much else you could do there.
Yeah.
But Khalil Shakir caught 4 of his passes for 39 yards. Also ran the ball once for 10 yards, so 8.9 points out of him. Yeah, which was more than Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
He caught 4 of his 7 targets for 26 yards and had 1 rush attempt for 5 yards, or 7.1 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really just disgusting work. Can't really blame it on him. Especially when, 4 of the passes that I mean, this is multiple. Josh Allen completed 15 passes, like I said. You
He had
complete
like
15 passes.
8 against the Cowboys a couple weeks ago. I don't think he had too many
Exactly.
last week. Like it's just it's weird to think the Bills could win football games without Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs having a great connection. Like it's just It's weird.
Without doing it, this offense is just so odd, man. I mean, I genuinely am curious what this game against Miami is going to look like.
Yeah.
This offense just has not looked good to me. With oh yeah, last game it was just the Gabe Davis experience,
Yeah.
which we said was last game. So this game, you should know very well that you're benching him. And if you decided to play with fate and think that you know better than the football gods do, you were burned.
Yeah.
He caught 2 of his 3 targets for 21 yards. And when I say the football god, it has been Gabe Davis goes off one week, the next week, you better bench him. That has been a constant. It has been a constant. Like, all superstitions or anything aside, that has been like
Just
a
the
rule
truth.
of law. It seems. Yeah, there's no avoiding it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was definitely a bench Gabe Davis week, and hopefully you did.
Yeah.
Tyler Bass, 9 points. But yeah, that was really it out of the Bills team. I mean, I'm pretty sure their defense had a good outing. There's a lot of defenses I didn't really check for, but they got a pick 6 and 2 other interceptions. So
Yeah.
that usually tends to put you on the higher side of defensive scoring in a given week.
Yeah, they were the number 4 defense. Actually tied for second, really. They had 18 fantasy points.
I was like, what 4 defenses did?
The Texans were number 1 with 22. The Giants were tied for 2 with 18. And the Jaguars also got 18.
The Giants ran a punt back.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I was like, what the? Okay.
Yeah. But that's
a punt return.
actually a good segue to my next game, which was also just an absolutely ugly game. It was the Panthers at the Jaguars. We just talked about how good the Jaguars defense did.
Jesus. Well, yeah.
This will be a very.
Hey, yo, did you see that video of David Tepper?
Yeah, wasn't he throwing drinks on his fans?
He's straight. Yeah, something happened. He picked up his drink.
Or I guess not his fans, because.
No, they're Jags fans. Nah, that fool's crazy. I've seen crazy things about. Like, he's been in restaurants and he'll tell people, I could just buy this restaurant and fire everybody.
That's iconic. What is wrong with him?
What is wrong with you? Why are you the way you are?
Homie's a villain in Batman, just in real life.
And, I mean, hell, his team's paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jaguars won this one 26-0. This will be a fairly quick assessment. The Panthers really had nothing going on their side of the ball. Bryce Young was 19 of 32 for 112 yards, 0 touchdowns and a pick, 1 carry for 2 yards, 3.68 fantasy points. Have a day, Bryce Young. Gosh, okay. His receivers, the best receiver was Adam Thielen, who caught all 6 of his targets for 38 yards. I said I didn't hate the Adam Thielen start. 9.8, I said as a flex. Like, it by no means was it a good week, but it also was not like a terrible week. It's, depending how the rest of your roster looked, something you could survive, but not a good week. Jonathan Mingo caught 2 of his 3 targets for 0 yards. It gave him 2 fantasy points. Like, what? DJ Chark had 2.8. Amir Smith Marset had 4.2. Tommy Tremble, 1.6. Miles Sanders carried it twice for 10 yards, caught both his targets for 12 yards, 4.2. He played 26% of snaps. One guy, Chuba Hubbard. Huh.
No, I just said, what a horrible day.
Oh, what a horrible... I thought you said hold up. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Chuba Hubbard was the one guy that had a salvageable fantasy day. 11 carries for 45 yards, caught 4 of his 5 targets for 26, gave him 11.1. As we mentioned, how many of these top drafted running backs had horrible days? It's not a bad day for Chuba. The Jaguars side of the ball was also fairly uneventful. CJ Beathard was 17 of 24 for 178 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 3 carries for 24 yards, 9.52 fantasy points. Calvin Ridley, we talk about his success rate catching the ball. It has not been good, and that continued in this one. He still didn't have a good game. He's targeted 8 times, caught 4 of them for 39 yards, 7.9. He is someone that we are going to see, when we talk about curious to see where these guys are drafted next year. He was drafted like 3rd, maybe early 4th round. That's got to drop to like 7, 8. It just has to. Jamal Agnew, what would have been the top receiver. He hurt his ankle and did not return. He only played 14% of snaps, caught both his targets for 53 yards, finished 7.3, almost outscored Calvin Ridley in 14% of snaps. It's just... And then Parker Washington gave us 1.2. And Evan Ingram with the most Evan Ingram day you could possibly imagine. 6 catches on 6 targets for 60 yards, 12 fantasy points. Very solid. You know what you get from him. And the guy I talked about that's had a bad past couple weeks that just I felt had to step up in this one, especially with the Panthers not being the best against the run, was Travis Etienne, and step up he did. 16 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns, caught both his targets for 16 yards, 25.8 fantasy points. Have a day, Travis Etienne. Of course, we mentioned the Jaguars defense, got 18 fantasy points. That was it.
Yeah.
It was an ugly game. Just terrible.
Yeah, it was. But not as bad as Sunday was for Eagles fans.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't even know that one. I don't know how they managed to. They were up 21-6 at halftime. Proceeded to lose 35-31. Kyler Murray had a day. Good job, kid. 25 for 31, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 attempts for 24 yards, and 1 fumble loss, 22.7 points. Now, somebody that I said, it's like, you know what? Eagles defense is good against the run. This guy just cut up against San Francisco. I got no fear. James Conner. And good Lord, I'm happy I planted my flag because he went dumb. 26 attempts, 128 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught his lone target for a 5-yard touchdown reception. So he finishes with 26.3 points. Like I said, we saw him getting back into this form. James Conner's a great running back. And man,
that might be the best fantasy day a running back's had against the Eagles all year. Like, honestly, I feel like every time we cover it, it's a bad week. And that was
very well could be. He went.
dominant.
You know the funny thing is? You know what the funny thing is? Actually, I don't know what Christian McCaffrey did against them.
That's true.
Michael Carter. 7 attempts, 61 yards on 7 attempts.
Stop.
They couldn't stop a nosebleed. They gave up damn near 7 yards a toe to Michael Carter.
Eagles are in shambles right now, man.
Dude, I don't know what's going on. They damn near threw that game against the Giants.
Yeah.
We saw, like, even special teams, like, what's going on in Philly? I don't get it, but
I forgot about that.
Oh my god, dude! Like, what is going on?
He ran right into Zacchaeus, just Boston. He was running like 3 miles an hour. He wouldn't even hit like speed yet. He took 2 steps, smacked his back, and just
turns around. Whole play's dead. Giants get the ball on the 10. Oh my god! Some of the
football's great sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Except when it's hurting you in fantasy. So,
yeah.
Like I said, Michael Carter had the 7 attempts, 61 yards. Also caught his lone pass for a 6-yard touchdown. So he finishes with 13.7.
How many people did he finish better than?
I don't know. And the worst part is he had a legitimate, like, he didn't just catch a couple passes. I don't. The Kevin Harris thing is funny, but this one is bad because he cut up for 61 yards on 7. It's just, oh Now, I don't know if this is the worst part of it or if this is the best part of it, but young Gregory Dortch, 7 targets, caught all 7 for 82 yards, 15.2 points out of Greg. This time last year, the Dortch torch was lit. Out of nowhere, the man just comes out of the mist, saves some people's fantasy season, disappears back. This year, comes back out of the mist. In these
The
weeks, he
Dorch
just
torch, man.
the Dortch torch. I don't get it. The most crucial times of the season, he comes through.
He's him.
Hey, shout out to Greg Dortch though.
Yeah.
Trey McBride didn't have the worst day, but best. 6 of his 7 passes for 48 yards, 10.8 points. We'll take that. We will, especially what we've seen out of some other people, but was hoping for a bit more. I'd say a surprising performance came out of Wilson. He gets the touchdown, so caught 4 of his 6 passes for 35 yards touchdown, giving him 13.5 points. No, I was thinking of a different game. But so yeah, that's yet again another rookie that going into next year, it is. Of all the teams question marks at quarterback, I have the time seeing the Cardinals just moving on from
It's gonna be Kyler. It's gonna be Kyler.
that. Yeah, I was like, I really have the hardest time them these teams.
He's
moving
good when
on.
he plays football. He's very good.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if there is some continuity with this team going forward, we get Kyler, McBride, Wilson. I'm gonna like some of these guys going into next year. I
Yeah.
like what I have seen out of this offense. I've proclaimed that multiple times. So yeah, we'll see how that goes going into next year. Rondale Moore did 3 of 4 passes for 26 yards, ran the ball twice for 8 yards, 6.4 points, 9 points out of Matt Prater. Good job.
Yeah.
Now this is where things start getting a little sad. Jalen Hurts, 18 for 23, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 8 rushing attempts for 25 yards, 20.2 points. This is your average Jalen Hurts day.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift.
He's been bad too recently.
Yeah, he kind of got back off denied last week, but this week was. I made the call for. I think it'll be a good week for Swift. I think he had 13 attempts, only got 61 yards, and caught his lone target for 5. 7.6 points.
It's the targets. He hasn't been getting the targets.
And that is because they are going to Kenneth Gainwell.
Mm-hmm.
Gainwell only ran the ball twice but out of the backfield caught 4 passes on 4 targets for 15 yards. Also completed a 17-yard pass.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
So whatever that's worth. 6.7 points out of him. It's just more. We weren't seeing Gainwell's work go to Gainwell. If that was all Swift, we'd be very satisfied. That would be, 14.3 point week.
Yeah.
We could roll with that. But unfortunately, as things get split and they use one guy for one thing, this can tend to happen.
Yeah.
And it did. A.J. Brown, man, he didn't kill you in this one. He really didn't, but I thought it was gonna be a big day for him. I really was. I was hoping, he's gonna. It's been a rough couple. He's gonna break out. It's gonna be 25 point. We're getting that AJ the season. He gets 9, catches 4 of his 5 targets, 53 yards. Fortunately, not as bad as Smith, who only caught 3 of his 5 for 36 points.
Both
Dallas
of those.
Goedert. Unfortunately, you can't be wrong too many times. And Goedert caught 5 of his 6 targets for 47 and a touchdown, 15.7 points. The reason why most people with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown did not have the best day. It's because 2 of Jalen Hurts' 3 passing touchdowns went to Julio Jones. Both of his catches were touchdowns. He got 2 for 34 and 2 touchdowns, so 17.4 points. Thank you for ruining a lot of.
He's the Jimmy Graham of that wide receiver room. Like, he's just comes in to snipe a random touchdown from you.
I can't even imagine how many people lost in the championship
Because Julio.
got touchdowns, man. Like I said, I mean, sometimes really when it comes to this stuff, like we say, there ain't nothing we can do.
No.
But look at these matchups and the stats, see how players have been doing, what trend, whatever you spin you want to put on it. At the best, what we can say is it's an educated guessing game. When Julio Jones gets 2 touchdowns in the fantasy championship, all you could do is laugh.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do, man. But nah, that'll be it for that one. I think I have one more morning game after.
We each have one
this.
more.
Yeah, all right. Let's roll through this.
Yep. My last one was the 49ers at the Commanders, a game that, honestly, I thought the 49ers would dominate a little bit more than what they did, but it was still a solid day. The 49ers won 27-10. Brock Purdy was efficient. 22 of 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a single carry for 4 yards, giving him 17.6. Again, kind of a disappointing week. Honestly, against the Commanders, I expected Purdy to do a bit more than that. Yeah.
If he would have done a little bit more. If he would have got me one more point, I would have won 20 more bucks in guillotine for being the highest score.
Really?
Granted, if anybody would have done. Yeah, I missed it by 0.24 points.
Who got it?
Trey Money Sign.
Okay.
That is.
Okay.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you won guillotine. Now, he could have the highest. Yeah. But no, I know it. Yeah. No, I know. But yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing week for Purdy. Our receivers got it done. Brandon Ayuk caught 7 of his 8 targets for 114 yards and a touchdown, giving him 24.4. Debo caught 5 of his 6 targets for 37 and a touchdown, also carried it 3 times for 35 yards, giving him 18.2. Kittle was left out in this one, only targeted 4 times, caught 3 of them for 29 yards, 5.9. McCaffrey actually left this game with a calf injury and did not return. McVay and McCaffrey have both reiterated it was more so. He did sustain a minor injury, but why put him back in when they have clinched the number one? There was just no reason to throw McCaffrey back in. And for any leagues that, for whatever reason, if you do have another week, if it's a 2-week championship and you are playing next week, you will not have McCaffrey. He will not be playing next week. So,
yeah, they clinched.
Yeah, it's just, I don't see why your league would go that long, but if it does, be prepared to be without a lot of these Niners guys. So, but yeah, McCaffrey played 54% of snaps, 14 carries for 64 yards, caught 4 of his 5 targets for 27 yards, giving him 13.1. Again, a bit of a disappointing week for McCaffrey, but also when guys leave due to injury, I'm not going to get on their case too much. He did still give you 13, so it wasn't absolutely terrible. Eli Mitchell was able to come in, carried it 17 times for 80 yards and a touchdown and 37% of snaps, giving him 14 on the dot. He was not targeted out of the backfield, but for whatever reason, again, if you're playing again next week, Eli Mitchell needs to be, honestly, in a bit of a fault to us. We should have mentioned that already, was in the preview of this, pick up Eli Mitchell ahead of time, because if the Niners do win this week, they're not going to be playing these guys. Eli Mitchell is going to go off next week. I guarantee you he's going to get crazy volume. So, something to monitor if you do have another week left. The Commanders' side of the ball was fairly ugly. Um, Sam Howell was it was supposed to be Jacoby Brissett. He did have that injury late in the week, and he did not play, so it was Sam Howell. He was 17 of 28, 169 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, 1 carry for -1 yard, 8.66. He still finished as a top 10 fantasy quarterback, but the fall
Wait.
off on the season. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. On the season. On the season, Sam Howell finished. It's like, obviously not this week. It was a terrible week for him. No. We went from his fall off has been crazy because he
It
was.
was historic damn team.
It was like we have our freaking quarterback of the future, Sam Howell. He's everything, and he was playing fantastic. And now Commanders fans are like, we need to draft a quarterback. We have a top 5 pick. We could get Drake May, Jaden Daniel. Dude.
Talking about Commanders fans, my dynasty team, bro. I was like, all right, I got my quarterback. Sound good again. He's doing good. There was at a point where it was like, start him over Trevor Lawrence. And then we get to the end of the season, like,
You might not even have a third fantasy court. Like, he might be benched. He might be benched.
Mason Rudolph might be my third fan. And good lord.
Yeah, it's yeah. So it was a terrible week for Sam Howell. Brian Robinson played. Honestly, he finished with a better stat line than I thought he would. He had 9 carries for 44 yards, caught all 4 of his targets for 32 yards, finished 11.6. Honestly, a solid week if you did decide to plug him in. He played 54% of the snaps. Antonio Gibson played 43%, had 4 carries for 19 yards, caught 2 of his 4 targets for 17, giving him 5.6. He's a handcuff at best. Scary Terry was the only Commanders receiver to get it done, but he got it done. Was targeted 6 times, caught 4 of them for 61 yards in that lone touchdown the Commanders scored for 16.1 fantasy points. And outside of him, Curtis Samuel, 4 targets, caught 3 for 33, 6.3. Jahan Dotson played 85% of snaps, was targeted once, did not catch it, so he goose-egged. And Logan Thomas played 61% of snaps, caught 3 of his 4 targets, 20 yards, 5 points even. So, the Commanders' offense did not accomplish too much in this one.
We're going to have a lot of fun ranking players going into next year.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Honestly.
It's going to be a mess. That's what it's going to be. Oh,
yeah.
my God. One thing that is funny, all the teams that, a slight segue, but it also does go into all the teams who are now struggling at the quarterback position, might not make playoffs, so on and so forth, that said they didn't want Lamar Jackson. Like, the Falcons, my next team that I'm getting into, is why I bring this up.
They said that?
They were, explicitly. Arthur Blank said that he didn't think Lamar Jackson's play style was sustainable, so on and so forth. Well, that led to a Taylor Heineke start in Week 17, where the absolutely needed a win in Chicago. Taylor Heineke threw 29 times, completed 10 of those passes for 163 yards and a touchdown. 3 of those 29 passes went to the other team. He ran the ball 4 times for 46 yards and a touchdown, so that was good at least. 18.1 points out of Taylor. Desmond Ridder came in at some point. Threw 4 passes, completed 3 of them for 17 yards. But the one wasn't an incompletion. It was an interception. He threw an interception and only threw 4 passes, man. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
You get 1 touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, and 4 interceptions out of 2 quarterbacks. But yeah, we move on. It's just hilarious. Anyway, the Falcons lost 17-37 to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
If Arthur Smith has a job next year, We will not be doing this podcast. We are going to be trying to coach an NFL team. 'Cause clearly anybody could do it.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson had 15 attempts for 75 yards. Also caught 3 of his 4 passes for 11 yards. A modest 11.6 point day.
Yeah.
Nah. Tyler Algier ran the ball 5 times for 13 yards, but he caught his lone target for a 75-yard touchdown. 15.8 points. Good job, Tyler. You little bowling ball of a human. Drake London caught 4 of his 10 passes for 56 yards and 6 points.
Nah. Yeah. It is what it is.
I love Drake London, the football player. Hate Drake London, the Atlanta Falcon. I mean, it's just...
He could be a Jet. They picked him right
I don't
before
know,
Garrett
man.
Wilson. Imagine Garrett Wilson. Okay, no, we don't need it.
I was going to say, it would just be like flip-flopping talent to...
I know, just trash. Literally, Garrett Wilson on the Falcons and Drake London on the Jets. It's just...
Still can't get him the damn ball.
Yeah, I was like, all right, never mind.
I mean, at least they tried, I guess, in this one. He got... But as you could see, he only had 13 completions. So
Yeah.
between 2 quarterbacks. And 13 completions and 4 interceptions. Oh, my God. Anyways. Van Jefferson caught his 5 targets for 19 yards for... Made the... Yeah. He got 5 targets.
Yeah.
Only caught 1 of them for
Yeah.
5 yards. 1.5. I will say, it's better than Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith caught 4 targets. He did not catch 1. So
No.
between their 2 tight ends, there was 1 catch on 9 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not very good.
No.
On to the other team who did significantly better. Justin Fields. I really don't see a world.
He's got to be back.
Maybe I don't see how you can look at this and be like Justin Fields is the problem. I don't know.
The Bears,
Maybe
this is a
it's
crazy
beyond
early
me.
take. The Bears could be good next year. If they play this offseason right, they could get a lot of draft capital with that number 1 pick.
Bro,
Still get
Bears,
Marvin
if
Harrison
we're
Jr.
The Bears should have won that game against the Browns. They should have won that before even, diving. And then Darnell Mooney has the ball. They win that game. I'm pretty sure they'd be in contention for playoffs.
Yeah.
So they're right there.
They are.
Yeah, Justin Fields, 20 for 32, 268 yards, a touchdown, 11 rushing attempts, 45 yards, and another touchdown. 25.2 points out of him.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing about this is Justin Fields games without turnovers usually.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I'm just stupid. I don't know. I said I just don't want anything to do with the Bears running backs at this point. I'm just shutting my eyes and waiting till next year. And then they both effectively kind of go off. Khalil Herbert, 18 attempts for 124 yards and a touchdown, and then he caught 2 of his 3 targets for 5 yards, 20.9 points out of him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Khalil. I guess you really are back.
Yeah.
But then Roshan Johnson, 7 attempts, 21 yards, another touchdown. Caught all 3 of his targets for 38, 14.9 points. So both Bears running backs had a good day. I just don't know what's going to happen in the Chicago backfield. Hopefully, going into next year, it's just Herbert and Johnson. And if it's just those 2, then okay, we can move forward with that. But you start throwing Kari Blasingame and Deontay Foreman and Travis Homer, and then we issues.
Yeah.
But when it gets condensed down to 2 people, it becomes a bit easier. It's just a matter of knowing whether it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We did not see Cole Kmet in this one. So Robert Tonyan got 3 catches on 4 targets for 40 yards. At this point, I think if you had to ask yourself the question whether or not you were starting DJ Moore, why the hell did you even draft him? Because
Yeah.
he's been doing everything we wanted out of him and more. 9 catches on 13 targets, 159 yards, touchdown. 30.9 points, championship week, DJ Moore. Amazing.
Wide receiver 3.
I mean,
He did it.
dog, like, the numbers that we saw, it was like, this isn't fake. This is over multiple weeks. He's done this multiple times. Are we, for some reason, still afraid of Justin Fields? No. Like, why the hell? Like I said, why would you even draft if it wasn't for this?
Yeah.
And he gave us exactly what we drafted him for in the finals. So,
yeah.
Shout out DJ Moore. Pretty sure Cairo Santos had like 12 or 13 points, something like that. Bears scored 37 points. Obviously, the kicker got a lot. That was a lot to unpack, and we still have a bit more.
It's a fun one though.
It was a lot of just. This has been a wild year.
Yeah.
It's been a very wild year. Some of the players we thought, and I mean, hell, it wasn't just a random thought. Some of these guys, they paid a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And end up getting relegated to nothing. Guys like Alexander Madison, we see by the year, his job gets taken by Ty Chandler.
Should have never been his job.
I mean.
No, I know. I
don't think you're wrong on that one, but you know how stuff goes. To Tony Pollard. I think our next episode, rather than going over, because, I mean, effectively our seasons are done. I think we'll do some episodes like just going over the year in general, like talking about guys, how they finished as compared to where we drafted them.
Yeah.
Looking into next year, so on and so forth.
Oh,
just
yeah.
more insight heading into next year, trades for different things like that, because I mean, it's kind of beating a dead horse talking about previews and recaps for games that nobody's playing.
Yeah.
But with that, we will see you guys in our next episode. Stay tuned. Be back soon.
Sir.